Good morning, everybody. It is wonderful to have you all here. I'm delighted for you to join us to hear about one of the charity sector's most remarkable success stories, Breast Cancer Now's afternoon tea campaign. So you're going to hear how a much loved community fundraiser has evolved into a powerhouse digital campaign that's just hit an incredible 1.8 million in income. And what makes this even more remarkable is that this growth has happened despite some significant challenges, like COVID's impact on in-person events to the current cost of living crisis. So we're going to take you through their journey, showing how the team has reimagined their approach from redesigning their website to expanding their channel mix beyond Meta, and crucially, how they've kept testing and refining their approach. So we are thrilled to have with us today Dan Papworth-Smyth and Juliet Branfield from Breast Cancer Now, along with Jemma Notley from Torchbox, and they're going to share some practical insights that you can take away and test on your own campaigns. So we're going to let our speakers share their story in whole to begin with, and then we've got lots of time for questions at the end. So I think if you can put them in the Q&A, it does help me to keep track of them as we go through. But if you put any in the chat, that's okay too. I'll try and save them out. But so we're going to ask all questions at the end, but start submitting them whenever they pop into your head. But first of all, I am going to do a quick poll just to make sure you're all awake. So here we go. What's your biggest challenge when running digital fundraising campaigns? You can select more than one if you like, and we'll get a feel for what the standout challenges are at the moment, or it might be across the board, but hopefully we might be able to provide some answers on the challenges today as well. There we go, they're all coming through. Okay, so over-reliance on a single channel. We will be talking about Meta today. We've got expert Jemma and Dan to give their perspectives on that. Converting social media interest into sign-ups as well. Okay, brilliant. They're still coming through. Right, I'm going to end the poll and share the results. There we go. So over-reliance on a single channel and converting social media interest into sign-ups, the two biggest challenges that people are facing at the moment, as well as the other things like rising acquisition costs and maintaining engagement through a long campaign. So we should sort of touch on most of those today, which is great. The live transcript is enabled if you would like to use it, and I am recording the webinar so that I can send it to you in a follow-up email afterwards as well. And I think that's about it. So I'm going to hand over to Juliet.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Sorry, Jemma, I'll just ask you to pop on to the next slide if that's okay. Yes, so before we dive into the rest of today's content, I'm just going to take a little moment to introduce afternoon tea and tell you a little bit about its history. So next slide, please. So afternoon tea, hopefully some of you are familiar with it already, but if not, it is Breast Cancer Now's famous foodie fundraising campaign. If you could just click for me, please, Jemma, sorry. And every year in August, we ask supporters from across the UK to get together and hold an afternoon tea. So taking part is really easy. Supporters simply sign up and we send them a fundraising kit packed full of everything they need to plan and hold their event, from invites and decorations, obviously the bunting that you need for your afternoon tea, and fun games for supporters to play on the day. Supporters can take part however they want. We really encourage supporters to sort of do their own thing for their afternoon tea, whether it's getting together with their friends and family for a cup of tea and some scones, or hosting a full-blown bake sale for all their colleagues. They can really do whatever they want to take part. And whatever supporters do makes a real difference. All the money that they raise will help drive forward Breast Cancer Now's world-class research and life-changing support. So we've got some absolutely amazing supporters, and on the next slide, I'll just pick out some key points in our history. So, as I said, afternoon tea has been running for over 27 years now, and it started out in 1998 as a really small community fundraiser known as Strawberry Tea, which ran over the Wimbledon fortnight. And since then, it's been through several rebrands, including 2017 when it became Afternoon Tea, as we know it now, and also in 2020 when August was chosen as Afternoon Tea Month. So since starting out as a small little community fundraiser, Afternoon Tea has grown and evolved considerably, and particularly in the last few years. So, although we were hit hard by the pandemic, we were able to bounce back quickly and recover to pre-pandemic performance by 2022. And then 2023 was sort of a real breakaway year for us. And we saw a huge jump in our registrations and a 66% increase in income, which led to Afternoon Tea being named the UK's fastest growing mass participation fundraising event by Massive. And this success has really continued into 2024, where we broke records again across all our key metrics. And so we'll dig into these results in a little bit more detail later. But for now, I'll pass over to Dan to discuss some of the challenges we've faced in recent years.
Thanks, Juliet.
Juliet.
Oh, and as you say, it's definitely not been plain sailing for the event. And in recent years, we've really faced our fair share of challenges to overcome to lead to this success. From the COVID pandemic, which I mean, particularly impacted face-to-face events hard, and this one being no exception, with so much involvement with friends and family, something that was impossible during the pandemic, and really took time for people to feel comfortable with again coming out of it. After that as well, we've had our real over-reliance on Meta and single channel there. So at our peak at Breast Cancer Now, our digital spend skewed 92% to Meta, which I mean is definitely a case of having all your eggs in one basket. We know at the time it performed for us really well, and there was a real reason to keep it that way, and performance was there. But actually, there's a lot of risk attached to that, and we know particularly at the moment with all the changes going on at Meta, which we'll talk about a bit more later, there was a real need to diversify that mix and make sure we had a more balanced marketing portfolio. As well as that, cost of living, it's hard to escape as it's been everywhere, and trying to drive those higher average gifts and more registrations when people are more conscious than ever of each pound in their pocket is really tough, and trying to make sure that we were there and we were able to adjust the campaign and its targeting based on what people out there were experiencing. As well as all this, if you cast your mind back to last summer, there was a lot of things vying for our attention. It wasn't just us competing with other charities, but we were competing with the general media landscape to really get people thinking about hosting an event for us during the summer, when we had everything from the men's UEFA Euros through to the general election and the Olympics all taking place across the summer months, when we would have normally been experiencing our peak for recruitment. Lastly, there's been many changes around privacy and targeting in recent years, and that's led to pivots across different ways of targeting and acquisition in order to be able to keep up pace with this recruitment and get those acquisitions through, not least these kind of recent changes, as I say, from Meta, which we'll talk about later. So next, we're going to talk a bit about the general digital strategy we've been using for the products and how it's kind of gone from success to success in recent years. And to start off, we will look at some recent work we've been doing around our website and the strategy there. So here's a quick look at the change we've been going through when it comes to afternoon tea, moving from our old boxy site on the left to our new mobile-first site on the right. The new site is far more better aligned to our brand and what people are experiencing with our advertising. It's optimized for mobile users who make up more than 80% of our total traffic, and it's much clearer for people wanting to take part and register. Back in 2021, we embarked on a path to bring together all our different websites and various digital systems, of which we had many. We've been through mergers and kind of accumulated and snowballed all these various digital platforms to then unify the experience for supporters, bringing that experience together so they could always find what they needed, moving to a new site, making everything more accessible, more user-friendly and secure, with a modern technical architecture and investment in those solid foundations that can help people build and going forward as well. We launched the Afternoon Tea web pages onto the new platform ahead of what was then the 2023 Afternoon Tea campaign. So this is now our year 2 of it. And we've seen a brilliant response in these past two past two campaigns. Our conversion rate increased by 3.5 percentage points between the 2022 and 2023 events, and the bounce rates dropped by more than 10 percentage points. It's not something that will stay static though, and we'll continue iterating the site and building and developing and learning from these different campaigns to help us improve it as we go. And I'll now pass over to Jemma.
Brilliant, thanks, Dan. So yeah, as Dan mentioned earlier, Meta has historically taken up to 92% of the total budget, and we've worked together really closely to try and bring this down across several key campaigns. And by implementing multi-platform campaigns, we've been able to reach more diverse audiences, test creative across different platforms, and create multiple touch points for campaigns across both online and offline platforms. So we've focused on channels across the full funnel to ensure that we're reaching people at different points, including top of the funnel activity. For afternoon tea, we use Spotify audio and contextual display. For mid funnel, we use demand gen and Facebook and Instagram. And then lower funnel activity, obviously Google and Microsoft Search at the bottom of that. We also worked really closely with Breast Cancer Now's offline media agency to align all of this with other activities such as radio and press, so that everything was complementing each other in terms of timings and budget. Whilst we are testing newer channels, Meta is still a key channel and it drove the most amount of signups. As you can see here, Facebook was allocated just under 67% of the budget, and it generated 73% of all signups. It's where the audience is for this event. It's where they're spending time and engaging with content. So we don't want to completely write it off. However, as Dan mentioned, it has been getting much harder to generate efficient results on Meta over the last few years. And one of our key focuses has been on pivoting our approach to targeting following the significant iOS updates and the corresponding changes that Facebook made to targeting options. You'll probably remember they removed a lot of the top performing interest-based targeting we'd previously used, such as specific medical conditions and also charitable organisation targeting. So we've since been testing other approaches with more of a focus on lookalike and custom lists, as well as broader audiences, including the newer Advantage Plus broad targeting within Facebook. We've seen mixed results from this broader targeting, usually better results on longer term campaigns, such as an always on lottery campaign, rather than ad hoc campaigns with a time constraint. This is just due to the fact that this type of targeting requires a lot of data, so it requires a bit more time to start learning. Advertising efficiently on Facebook is also about to get even harder for many charities, with restrictions already coming into place for many organisations and many more facing them over the next few weeks. This latest update from Meta that they quietly announced before Christmas sees restrictions being placed on data that's shared via the Facebook pixel from domains that are given certain categorizations. This is really focused on potentially sensitive information. One of the main categories we're seeing impacted at the moment is health and wellness, which obviously impacts the Breast Cancer Now domain, but there are many other categories that are potentially going to be impacted. These sometimes are quite vague. There's one just around personal hardship, which could impact a lot of charities, but also things like religious belief and refugee status. So once these restrictions are in place, no data will be shared via the pixel, which will potentially impact conversion-based goals such as donations, web form completions, but also just simple page views. It also puts an end to retargeting and lookalike targeting based on website visitors. And it also stops us from being able to exclude visitors that have looked at specific web pages. So these restrictions will obviously have a significant impact on our ability to target, track, and optimize campaigns, meaning generating efficient results from Meta is going to get much, much harder. So one area that's not impacted by the upcoming restrictions is the use of lead generation forms on Meta. So these can still be tracked with the restrictions in place, and they can still be used as a campaign objective for optimizations. We've been working with several clients to look at how lead generation can play an important role within the channel mix for campaigns. And it's really great at capturing valuable data at a point when the user is interested and engaged. So for some events, like things like a challenge walk or a run, a user might need some time to consider taking part, get friends together to take part with, etc. So by capturing data when they're first engaged, we can continue that conversation via something like email. There are loads of different propositions you can test with lead gen forms, including register your interest. The example here on the screen was a simple prompt to sign up to Breast Cancer Now's email newsletter to receive more information and support, and that was part of a brand awareness campaign. We've also tested value exchange style lead gen with many clients, where the users get something in return, whether that's a physical item that's posted to them or a simple download or access to a digital resource. We've seen cost per leads lower than £1 on some campaigns, so really worth testing if you haven't already. So yeah, kind of the focus on the funnel has been really key on expanding that channel mix, and as I mentioned, working really closely with Breast Cancer Now's offline media agency. Incrementally testing things. So there's obviously always something new and shiny coming out, a new platform or a new feature. And it's just making sure that you're testing things that are relevant, not just testing everything new and shiny. So it's looking at where audiences are spending their time and where they're likely to engage. And also just looking at new features within existing platforms as well. So Google Ads have added in a lot of new AI-powered placements, such as Performance Max and demand generation. So it doesn't have to be a completely new channel. It could just be new features within existing platforms that help you expand your reach as well. And I will hand back to Dan to talk about email.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jemma. So as we've just been talking about, it's a really challenging landscape out there for social advertising and search, and all these different features and different restrictions that come in, really impacting where your ads are shown and how you can reach the supporters you're trying to get to. And I think one of the benefits of email is that you have that reliability of that first party data. You're contacting people who've really actively said they want to hear from you and they want to understand more about what you're doing and how they can support you. Yes, you're still dealing with algorithms around where you sit in inboxes, whether that's kind of in the primary or other or promotions, things like that. But you do have that more direct contact with supporters. With this first party data, we've worked harder and harder to get more from our emails, and particularly reducing our reliance on mass sends, going from just sending bulk messages to everyone and instead going much more targeted, looking at the audiences which are actually engaging with our emails, and instead kind of working to really target that content going to them, rather than just assuming that the bigger list is always better. For example, we've seen really strong response from our campaigners for this product, for example. So working with them to see how we can kind of do more cross-sell and get more from that group. As a result of all of this, we've been able to see that while we've only increased the total number of sends by 2% for afternoon tea, we've seen 58% more clicks between 2023 and 2024, which led for an overall 74% increase in registrations from email, making it one of the largest contributors to overall signups for the campaign. If we go back and compare this to 2022, we then see a 124% increase in clicks, which shows the trajectory we're on. This isn't just a one-year thing. This is a long-term trajectory that we're really building this improved email engagement and improved email performance. The other big win for us has been focusing on deliverability after what's really been a rocky few years with kind of people receiving our emails. We work closely with our email platform to improve our reputation scores, closely looking at them. And we're proud to say that while we only sent 2% more emails, we had a 6.4% increase in the total emails delivered because of this work, helping to make the most of those owned audiences and actually get them in front of the people who have actively said they want to hear from us. We monitored our block rates each month and worked to build up our send volumes gradually to rewarm our IP after appealing to remove blocks that had been placed on our accounts by certain email providers on and off for over a year. So please see we're in a much better position for that now going forward. Now I'm going to pass back over to Jemma.
Oh, thanks, Dan. So yeah, we also wanted to talk a little bit about our focus on creative testing. So over the last few years, we've developed a really robust testing plan for creative assets and ad copy. We've tested different types of images and just tried to be really clear on what learnings that we want to take forward. As you can see from the examples here, we've tested different types of text overlay from a more subtle call to action, moving to more obvious and branded call to actions, making it clear what the event is and when it happens. And other tests include adding more urgency, testing best performing assets from previous years against newer assets, statics, and also GIF style videos, and specific creative for remarketing audiences who are warmer and potentially just need a gentle nudge. You can see some examples of the creative here and some of the changes that have been made to the branding and the call to actions. These are the top performing assets from the last few years. The close-up of the scones are now a solid feature of the campaign, and constantly drive the best results in terms of engagement and conversion, and always open up that ongoing conversation of, is it jam first or cream first? So yeah, a real staple of the campaign now with those types of images. The testing plan includes timings on when new creatives will be added into the campaign to help reduce fatigue. This campaign runs over several months, so we wanted to make sure that we were reviewing the performance at key periods, removing poorer performing assets and testing newer versions where possible. We want to avoid doing this too much throughout the campaign, as it could potentially impact the optimizations that Meta automatically apply to the campaign, especially if we're doing this early on before the campaign has exited the learning phase. However, we often see a nice spike in performance when we've added in new creatives, giving the campaign a nice boost and allowing us to continue gaining insights throughout the campaign. Having a flexible approach to creative assets where we use insights to brief in changes with whoever is designing the assets, whether that's an agency or your in-house team, it's really invaluable so that you can quickly respond to what the data is highlighting whilst the campaign is still active. As well as creative assets, we've also included ad copy variants within the testing plan, looking at things like adding in questions, statistics, more of a focus on the event versus focus on the cause and the amazing difference that the funds raised will make. We've also tested the inclusion of things like emojis and different lengths, so short and snappy and longer versions of ad copy, just to help us understand what engages different audiences. So here's a couple of examples of top performing variants. Even though these two were both top performing, you can see there's a significant difference in the click-through rate and the conversion rates, despite having the exact same image and the exact same call to action button, just highlighting why it's so important to test different versions and gain insights into what's working for your audiences. We found that ad copy focused on an element of community, being part of something amazing and helping people affected by breast cancer have worked really well at both engaging but also converting users to sign up. The first one here on the right is a little bit lighter. It's a focus on what you'll need for your afternoon tea event, and it uses emojis just to kind of brighten it up a little bit and just catch attention as people are scrolling. And this generated the strongest click-through rate at 1.5% and a conversion rate to sign up of 5.3%. The second one is much more urgent and much more cause focused. It includes the use of a stat to highlight this urgency, and also focused much more on how holding an event will help people with breast cancer. And I'll pass back to Juliet to talk about the results.
Thank you. So I get the great job of getting to shout about 2024's results. So as I mentioned earlier, it was our best ever year in our 27-year history. And you can see here on the slide some of the sort of key metrics and what we achieved in 2024. So we got a huge 12,476 registrations, which is an increase of more than 1,100 supporters compared to the year before. We also saw our income grow by nearly £400,000 from 2023, and that's brought our total to £1.8 million and counting so far. Alongside that, we've also seen our average gift continue to grow, and this has been sort of growing over the last 3 years, and hopefully will continue to grow into the future. So on the next slide, let's dig into let's have a little look at how that sort of stacks up, and you can see here how our income has grown year on year. So that orange line there is 2023, and then the light blue on top is 2024. So on the next slide, we'll just dig a little bit more into 2024's results. One of our big wins for 2024 was improving our ratio of warm to cold supporters. And by warm support, we mean supporters who have a previous relationship with Breast Cancer Now, or who have taken part or registered for afternoon tea in the past. And growing our warm support is one of the key points in our strategy for sustainable growth. And this is for several reasons. So warm supporters, they're more likely to actually go on to hold their event. And when they do hold their event, they're also more likely to raise additional money. But ultimately, we want to grow that relationship with our supporters and make it as strong as possible. However, to continue our growth, we also need to reach and feed in new cold supporters, so people who haven't previously had a relationship with breast cancer now. And Torchbox has been absolutely incredible at achieving this. So in 2024, 58% of our supporters had no previous relationship with breast cancer now, and a whopping 7,402 came directly from our paid digital activity. With these incredible results also comes extra work for our amazing stewardship team. And 2024 was our best ever year for supporter engagement. You can see some stats there on the slide about the huge number of emails we received, calls we made, and the supporters who placed orders for extra items to help with their fundraising. And all of these sort of points are really great predictors for success, and the more engaged the supporters are, the better your results. So before we move on to our top takeaways, I can't talk about afternoon tea without introducing one of our amazing supporters. And so I'd like you to meet Shetty. Shetty has taken part in afternoon tea since 2020, and I think her story really embodies how the campaign itself has grown. So she started out in 2020, she held a really small, socially distanced event just for her close sort of friends and family. And she's taken part every year since then, and every year her events have grown and grown to sort of new heights. And so is our relationship with her. So she now features across all of our marketing, from, you can see on the right there, our digital ads on Meta and Spotify, to even in our sort of print ads that we run in publications across the UK. So I will pass back to Jemma for our top takeaways.
Thanks, Juliet. I think we all need a Shetty in our life for sure. Brill. So yeah, just to kind of summarize what we've run through today. One of the key things, as Dan mentioned, was kind of reviewing the full user journey and your full digital strategy. So looking at the various touch points that a user might experience, the landing page where users are going to click to, the sign up process, and the follow-on communications. If one of these is not performing, it can have a significant impact on the overall campaign. It's also worth looking at other comms that might be going out to the same audience at the same time, just to ensure that the volume and crossover is monitored across various campaigns. Looking at where your audience is spending time and where they're likely to engage, it can obviously sometimes take several touch points before someone is ready to engage and sign up. So looking at that channel mix to diversify and not rely on just one channel. Testing new channels can obviously feel quite risky, but one of the key benefits of digital over offline media is that we have access to a wealth of real-time data, allowing us to review performance and pivot budget if something is not working. Having a really robust testing plan is essential for year-on-year growth, ensuring that insights are fed back into the campaign as you're planning the next year, and just being really clear about what you want to learn and what you want to test, not testing too much at once, and yeah, just being really clear on what those learnings need to be and how you're going to take them forward to the next campaign. Scheduling creative and ad copy refreshes really helped us avoid ad fatigue as the campaign was running for several months, and it also just helped us to keep learning as well on those longer campaigns. And I think one of the real shining points of this campaign is that sense of community, right from the ad copy and the creative assets that we're using through to the marketing and stewardship. It's really driven exceptional results and made people feel that they're part of something, as shown with the example that Juliet gave with Shetty and how she's become a real key part of the campaign now. So that's everything from us. I'll just hand back to Lisa and we can start taking some questions.
Brilliant. Well done, everybody. It's such an amazing campaign. So we do have some good questions coming in for you. They don't seem too tough, so don't be worried. So first of all, about the creative, do you have any tips testing images, as we now can't see image breakdowns when using flexible advert types as opposed to dynamic adverts, which will be disappearing?
So we have been testing just the kind of the more old-fashioned way of having individual ads, which you can then also optimize for placement. So if you're running ads across newsfeed and stories and reels, that can be a really good option. It obviously has its pros and cons, as your kind of the optimization benefits of having the old dynamic new flexible ads. But yeah, in terms of if your focus is on testing and gaining insights, that kind of more traditional structure of having individual ads can really help if that is your focus. I think it's just a balance of what the objective is, and if your focus is on things like targeting and audience testing, or whether it is on creative testing.
Brilliant, thanks, Jem. And following on from the images as well, is there a reason you only use female images in the adverts? Is that because they achieve better results stereotypically with a female activity, or is it the historical belief that breast cancer only affects women? It's not a criticism, it is just that she's interested, they're interested.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's in this sort of slideshow, you've seen lots of pictures of women in our ads, and we do try to include men as well in our ads. I think our audience does tend to skew predominantly towards women taking part in the events, but we do also see men engaging as well with afternoon tea. So we try and show sort of like a range of different people taking part in afternoon tea from all different backgrounds, and men and women as well. So yes, we do also run ads with men in the images as well.
Great, thank you, Juliet. And Catherine says, great results. Do you take learnings from Wear It Pink, Breast Cancer Now's other big mass participation event?
Yes, we do. So I actually work across both afternoon tea and Wear It Pink. So luckily I'm in a fortunate position to sort of share learnings across the two different events. And also within Breast Cancer Now, I think something we're working on is breaking down those silos and sort of sharing learnings across the entire organisation to make sure we're all sort of optimizing where we can. So yes, I would definitely also for your own work, if there's any learnings you can take from other events or products that feature in your workplace, I definitely recommend that.
Is there a little bit of competition between those two teams?
No.
Abby asks, how did you find using Spotify audio?
Yeah, good. They've got a really good self-serve ad platform. They also have a really good creative creation service. So if you don't have the facility to create your own audio ad, which can be very expensive in terms of paying for like voiceover rights, you can submit a script, or you can provide them prompts and they will write a script for you, which you can then approve. You get sent the audio file, which you can then feed back on and ask for amends. And it's quite a quick turnaround, normally within a few days. You've got something back that's ready to use. You can also add things like background music and things like that. You can select different like regional accents. I recently asked for one with a regional Scottish accent for an event in Scotland, and I got one back with a Scottish accent. So considering it's a free service, it's really good. And yeah, we're seeing results on Spotify improving, especially over the last kind of 6 to 12 months. And they are also constantly launching like new placements. So we've been testing video placements on Spotify recently and have seen really similar results to Meta in terms of click-through rate, and also cost, so kind of like CPM and cost per click. So yeah, it's obviously audio is a bit more higher funnel, but even with that, a recent campaign that we're running for another Breast Cancer Now campaign for Pink Ribbon Walks, we've been running some audio ads, and they have a click-through rate of about 0.2%, which, considering it's an audio ad, we were quite surprised about. So yeah, they've definitely upped their game in terms of their ad services. They've also got a Pixel now. I think they were the last digital platform to launch a Pixel, but they now have a Pixel, so you can more accurately track clicks through to your website, and also conversion actions like making a donation, signing up to an event, etc. So yeah, Spotify definitely upped their game in terms of their ad services, and definitely worth a test.
Yeah, that sounds like it's worth giving a go. Also, still on the platforms, Matt's asked if you've also tested the use of ads on TikTok, and or YouTube as part of your mix.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely dabbling in TikTok and starting to kind of explore more there. Most of the work we've done on TikTok so far has been upper funnel activity and kind of the awareness, which it does work well for. Like, it's very, very competitive CPM, so you can get your cheap reach there. We're yet to see kind of much results in terms of kind of mid and lower funnel, but we are about to do a test involving TikTok lead forms, which will help us kind of get more of an idea there. But definitely kind of one of the avenues we're looking at as kind of like many charities at the moment, looking to kind of diversify that income away from Meta a bit, and seeing kind of what opportunities there are elsewhere. So yeah, probably we'll be looking to increase that spend and test a bit more on TikTok soon.
Great. We'll get you to write a blog about that so we can share how it all goes. How much of the campaign was delivered in-house and how much was via agency support?
So all of the paid side was all with Torchbox, and then all of the emails were delivered internally. So yeah, we've been fortunate, like we've worked with Torchbox on Afternoon Tea for I think 7 years now. So we have a really long history with yourselves on that, and it's been great to kind of continue that. And then going forward into this year as well, working with yourselves on Wear It Pink too. So it'll be great to kind of be able to share those learnings more easily across the two campaigns.
Brilliant, thank you. Keeping Jemma very busy. You've also mentioned average gifts and income. Are you able to share your ROI on this campaign? Don't know if you've got that, Juliet.
I'll have to dig that out, but it definitely varies sort of year on year and also between the different channels. We're lucky to have sort of like a healthy ROI, but yeah, I'll have to dig that one out for you.
Thank you. Okay, they're coming thick and fast. I hope you're all right. Ready? Have you found your conversion rates from those who sign up to those who go ahead and organize an event? Hang on, thanks so much, really interesting. How have you found your conversion rates from those who sign up to those who go ahead and just organize an event?
So is that sort of the people who sign up who then go on to actually hold their event, that sort of rate? So we've seen that grow year on year, and it does vary across channels as well. Obviously, our warm supporters who have taken part before, when they register, they are more likely to continue to then actually go on and hold their event. I do think as well it's been a focus of our stewardship journey to really once we get someone to register, give them everything they need so that they can then go on and hold their event, whatever support that is, whether it's sort of tips and tricks or extra resources or just advice on the day about how to sort of plan their event. It's definitely a big focus of our stewardship. So that's another metric that we've seen sort of improve and grow year on year.
Thank you, Juliet. We have a question about how long is the recruitment period for this campaign?
So it's quite a long recruitment period and it runs across several months. I'm trying to add them up now. So yeah, it's about 4 months, our recruitment period for this campaign.
Is that pretty standard, Jemma, or is that longer than normal?
Yeah, I think it's probably about standard for this type of event. I think something else in terms of the length of the campaign that we've been testing over the last couple of years is how we weight the budget. So the last couple of years we've really kind of front loaded it to try and get the sign-ups early, and also try and balance it. It's quite a busy time of the year for Breast Cancer Now campaigns with quite a few big campaigns launching. So we wanted to try and front load the budget to kind of get them in early and get ahead of that essentially, so we're not kind of the ad spend can then reduce when other things pick up. So yeah, it's kind of about the wider campaign plan as well. But yeah, we definitely tested kind of budget weighting and not just having the same budget every month, but we have definitely found the CPA was lower if we went earlier. So I think this year we launched with kind of March, April time, wasn't it, Juliet? So I think we looked at kind of front loading the budget as much as possible to get those sign-ups early.
We also had a question earlier about why the month of August was chosen. I don't know if none of you were probably around then, but after it moved from Wimbledon to being August, I don't know if any of you know why. I mean, it's worked out well, but do you know any background to why August was chosen?
Yeah, like you say, it was before my time, before I joined the campaign. And I know that there's been sort of lots of testing behind the scenes in when we hold it. And it's changed from, like you said, it was Wimbledon fortnight, and then it was the whole of summer. And then we found having sort of that moment, so a month to take part, sort of got supporters focused, kind of focused that energy on one point in time. And I know it was July before we settled on August, but I need to dig into why it moved.
Thank you. We can find that out and add it to the blog. Do you have any year-on-year participation statistics? Specifically, is the majority made up of individuals, or do you see a high volume of corporate involvement?
So predominantly it is individuals taking part in afternoon tea, and we do have some organisations that take part in their workplaces, but mainly it's sort of people taking part with their friends and family or with their colleagues. I do have data on how many people come back year on year to hold another event, but I don't have it to hand, unfortunately. So that'll be another one for the blog.
So do you have, could that be an opportunity then, trying to get more corporate organisations involved?
Yeah, and I think it's something that we're definitely looking into, how we can kind of expand that, because I do think it fits, having a bake sale at work, getting together with your colleagues. I think there's a nice fit. So definitely an opportunity for the future.
Great. Luke asks, have you got any tips on how to have a successful campaign with budget constraints?
I think I think it is, I think when budgets are smaller, it is looking at doing less but doing it well. So picking the channels that you know are likely to work best for your audience, not trying to do much and spread your budget really thin, but really do less but do it really well, essentially. Don't just put your budget into 10 different channels, just pick one or two that you are confident will work, and build it incrementally. I think that's where that year-on-year growth really comes in. Like when we, the first few years we worked together, the channel mix looked a lot smaller than it does now, but incrementally over the years we've grown that, as the results have grown as well, and as we've learned more. So yeah, I think it's just starting small and focusing on that growth. I don't know if you've got anything else to add to that, Dan, from other
No, I
PCM.
think that's a really great approach to it. Like, I think it's very easy to chase after lots of newfangled things and kind of think like, oh, I want to try out that new type of ad, but you have to think about where your target audience is and really where's going to get the where's going to deliver your results and where you can get that conversion through. So yeah, understanding your audience is definitely the key part of that, and knowing where you're going to be focusing on converting them. So I think kind of pairing that with what you do across your own data and your own channels can definitely help to make your money go a lot further.
And can they take advantage of Google Ad grants for this as well?
Yeah, in some cases, I think kind of it depends around the event and kind of what you're doing there. So I saw there was another question about grants as well. So we have Google Grants Pro. So we're one of the fortunate kind of charities still to be left with the 40K a month, which is fantastic. But it doesn't tend to form part too much of the afternoon tea mix during the activity itself. But we do use paid for Google Ads kind of extensively throughout the campaign, particularly using kind of things like PMAX and demand gen as well to kind of really help to maximize on those new opportunities. But yeah, Google Ad Grants is a big one for us kind of throughout the rest of the year, outside of the kind of key recruitment window to really help elevate our work, and to support those activities where budgets are really that much tighter.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dan. And Michelle asks, what CRM system do you use to manage donors and donations?
So we have our own CRM. We have something called Unity, I believe, and we use that to sort of manage our relationships with our supporters. We can sort of like track our donations through there, but we also work with Just Giving, so getting people to fundraise on Just Giving for their events, because it's just sort of like a really easy way for people to, when they hold their event, they can get donations that are cashless. It's sort of easy and a really great way to also add gift aid onto that as well.
Brilliant, thank you. You're right to keep going, keep batting them back quite quickly. They're still coming through. Could you share any examples of the demand gen activity in the mid-funnel piece?
Yeah, we can definitely kind of follow up with some more examples. It was we didn't have a lot of video assets for this campaign, so it's something that we're focusing on for the 2025 campaign. So it was, the demand gen campaign was predominantly images, and demand gen typically is quite focused on YouTube. It's become a good replacement for kind of standalone YouTube campaigns. So yeah, I think we definitely had kind of a lot of the similar images that we've used on things like Meta, and tested different headlines and descriptions, etc., to kind of find different variations. But yeah, definitely something we want to focus on this year is more video assets to really kind of make the most of that, of the different placements within demand gen. If anyone doesn't know, demand generation basically combines different assets to create ads that go across the Google network. So it includes things like YouTube, as well as YouTube Shorts, Gmail ads, the Discover section, if you've got an Android phone. So yeah, it's a bit like Performance Max as a similar thing, but goes across more placements, so things like maps and shopping and display. So yeah, it's something that we've seen some promising results over, a really good engagement. I think Google kind of talk about it as their version of social media advertising, so it's that like really kind of engaging, quite visual focused advertising, but yeah, we can include some kind of examples of the different images and the different text assets that we use on that campaign.
Thank you. And what have you found to be the key similarities and differences in audience engagement and ad performance between your challenge events with web participants and non-challenge products like afternoon tea? Is there a particular platform or journey that works best for one over the other?
I think that's quite hard to say. I mean, we have such a broad spectrum of kind of challenge products that we have as a charity, as well as non-challenge products, kind of even the differences between afternoon tea and Wear It Pink, for example. So it's really hard to say in terms of kind of the ad performance and engagement there. I think kind of generally Meta is always skewing to our kind of most highest converting platform, just because of the demographic kind of audience profile there for us. We're a charity that works predominantly with that supports women predominantly over 45, and that tends to be where that audience group mostly are on Facebook. That's not to say they're not elsewhere, and increasingly we're seeing results on Instagram too. But yeah, I think it's always a combination, and it very much depends on the event and the audience for that event and in how we approach it. So everything we do has that bespoke approach to it. So we're not just doing a cookie cutter style kind of campaign for each, and that means then we have more flexibility when it comes to kind of running campaigns simultaneously and kind of reducing overlap, because we're taking that nuanced approach to each one we're approaching.
Thank you, Dan. And do you have merchandise items that people can buy for the event on top of what you send out in the pack? And what sort of things might they be?
So we don't currently. We do offer sort of extra orders. So any extra fundraising items supporters need, we can send those out, and we don't charge for those currently. We did introduce last year a suggested donation to help cover costs like postage and producing the materials, but at the moment we don't currently have a shop. It's just sort of, if there's items, so extra donation boxes, extra decorations, supporters can log into our website and order those extra fundraising materials to be sent out to them.
I thought Shetty had an afternoon tea t-shirt on. I must have just
imagined. So that's actually, so we do send those out as extra orders as well if supporters need them, and we do find that sort of the more extra items a supporter orders, the more likely they are to hold their event, and also sort of the bigger their event, it's sort of like a level of commitment that they're showing, that they've put the planning in, and you know they know what extra items they need. So yeah.
Makes sense. Do you have corporates that sponsor afternoon tea?
So we don't currently have a sort of formal corporate sponsor for afternoon tea. It is something that we're really keen to look into, and then also we do have some amazing organisations who sort of take part year after year. So, but nothing formal at the minute.
Okay, right. I'm going to ask you a few more because I think you're doing an amazing job of keeping on top of them. Let's have you explored WhatsApp groups or other forms of SMS communications to steward fundraisers taking part in this event?
It's definitely something we're looking into more. We're doing a piece at the moment internally to understand what kind of use cases there are for SMS and WhatsApp around the charity. trying to kind of see that evolving stewardship and communication model that people are now expecting more and more, and having that complementary comms through mobile devices rather than just across email. So yeah, definitely something we're looking into. We've not used it massively. We've done kind of stewardship calls for people before previously, but kind of yeah, we've not explored too far yet in terms of rolling out that bespoke journey through mobile messaging. So yeah, hopefully one we can be exploring more in the future and share how that goes.
Add it to the blog. Really interesting to hear the campaigner data responded well to a cross-sell afternoon tea ask. Are there other groups of warm supporters you're considering cross-selling to in 2025?
Yeah, so it's something we're looking into at the moment, and within Breast Cancer Now, we've got a team who sort of looks at our different audiences, our different supporters, and where there might be opportunities to cross-sell. I think one thing we're always wary of is not overwhelming supporters with communications and not sort of hitting them with 10 different asks for 10 different things. So I think it's something we're looking into for 2025 to see where there are those other opportunities and where there's supporters that might be interested.
Okay, two more. Have you found that a lot of people paying in money after the fact without registering first, for example, from workplace fundraising? And what have you found to be the best way of engaging with them afterwards beyond the standard thank you letter? Two questions.
Yeah, so we do get, it's not a huge amount, but we do get a sort of small amount of our income comes from non-registrant supporters, and a lot of that comes from people setting up Just Giving pages without registering. And so through that, we're able to sort of contact them, encourage them to complete the full registration form so that they can get things like their fundraising kit and all the extra support that sort of we're able to offer to supporters who fully register. For thanking, we have a really great thanking process where we're able to sort of thank people with certificates and emails and sort of really celebrate what they've done for the charity and the difference they've made.
Really nice. And finally, final one, how do you manage fulfillment of fundraising packs? Are they sent out in-house or from external providers? And how many assets are digital versus sending out physical?
So we use a fulfillment house to manage our fundraising kits. I think just due to the sheer volume that we send out, we're not able to do it in-house. And so they manage all of our sort of fundraising kits. We do have digital versions of all our fundraising kit items. So if people sort of need things quickly or they want to print it themselves, they can access that all through the website. And anyone can access that, to be honest, it's all up there. But yeah, everything you see in the fundraising kit, we also have a digital version of.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your brilliant questions. For any that we haven't answered, I will find out the answers and send them over with my follow-up email. I will also share the slides deck as well. And thank you very much, Juliet, Dan, and Jemma. Just to let you know that Dan will be in conversation with Amna, who is our Client Services Director, at the Engaging Digital Comms Conference, which is in April. And they have still got tickets available. And I've got £200 off if people book this week. So I will send a note about that in the follow-up email as well. So thank you, everybody. You certainly woke up. That's for sure. And we'll hopefully see you at another event soon. Thanks, everyone.